Anna, a single woman, is having a glass of wine before going to bed when the story begins. But when she lifts her head, she sees someone killing her friend by choking her. At first, she thinks she is dreaming, but when she looks more closely, she sees that the friend is being killed. In fact, Anna grabs her phone and calls to let them know. Then she chooses to run out of the house, but it's raining. Her legs get weaker and weaker, and Anna falls to the ground in a strange way. As she closes her eyes, the scene jumps back in time to a time when Anna's family was happy. She was happy with her husband and loved her daughter. One day, the school gives them an assignment: parents to take their kids to work so they can see what it's like there. So, Douglas, the father, takes their daughter Elizabeth to work with him. Rain starts to fall before they leave, so Anna buys Elizabeth an umbrella, but she had no idea that it would be the last time she saw him. Douglas is a forensic therapist who has studied serial killers for a long time. He takes Elizabeth to jail with him and puts her in a room where he can check on her. Right before the test starts, the guard asked Douglas to leave the room because there was something important going on. Then he shuts the door and locks the room by accident, but Douglas didn't remember that. Massacre Mike, a serial killer, is in the same room as his daughter. Not surprisingly, Mike makes the most of the chance and chooses Elizabeth as his 31st target. Anna's marriage to her husband fell apart after their daughter was killed, and as a result, the couple broke up. Anna has had a hard time getting over what happened, even though it's been a few years. And even worse, it was raining on that day, so she now has a fear of rain. To get over losing her daughter and her marriage falling apart, Anna is back to drinking wine every day. Anna's mind has been hurt by her sadness, and she says that sometimes she hears things and sees her dead daughter Elizabeth around the house. This has made her even more of a stranger in the neighborhood. The only guy she can trust is Buell, the community's handyman. He fixes broken mailboxes better than anyone else. Anna hasn't been on a date in a while, but one day, a handsome guy named Neil Coleman asks her out. When he moves into the house across the street, he has a crush on him right away. Neil is also a widower, and his daughter, Emma, is 9 years old, so she makes friends with Neil's daughter to get closer to him. But she soon finds out that Neil is dating a beautiful flight attendant. Anna feels bad about flirting with Neil, so she chooses to stop. She still keeps an eye on Neil and his family, though. She sees Lisa being killed one night while she is drinking wine. Lisa can't be saved because she faints on the road because she's afraid of rain. Unexpectedly, a mystery person watches the whole thing and picks her up. Anna wakes up on her sofa, which is drenched. Anna had already called the cops, so they came and check out Neil's house. They don't find any dead bodies, though. Neil says that Lisa is a flight attendant who is now working on a plane, and Lisa confirms this. The city of Seattle. The cops then ask Anna about what happened, and when they see a bottle of wine and a pill on her table, they think she must have been dreaming and leave. But Anna knew she wasn't making things up, so the next morning, Neil and she talk. But like the others, Neil says Lisa is still out there, still living. He even shows some of the text messages he sent to Lisa this morning. Anna is still not sure, even though there is a lot of proof. She breaks into their house to look for more proof when they go to the store. Right by the window, she finds Lisa's earrings and keeps them with her, but she needs to find something else first. Neil and Emma come back home and catch her in the act. Then she is yelled at by the father and daughter for going beyond her limits, and then she was kicked out of the house. Anna goes to her friend Sloan, upset and ashamed, and tells him what happened. She tries to get help to examine the scene of the crime. Sloan also thinks she was dreaming, which makes her sad, and adding that she often sees her dead daughter. Anna starts to think that she is really seeing things, so she chooses to stop doing it. After her daughter died, she joined a support group and went there to talk. After that, Anna decides that she needs to get out of town after the meeting. At the airport, however, as she waits to buy a ticket, she finds out that there haven't been any trips to Seattle this coming week. Lisa had already left the day before for Seattle. She also finds out that Lisa is taking a long break. When Anna hears this, she starts to think that Neil killed his girlfriend. She goes to the police office in her town and talks to a detective named Lane. She shows Lisa's earring and asks the cop to look into it, but Lane says that there is not enough proof. Anna feels sad when she leaves the police office. Despite this, she keeps looking into it. When Elizabeth, Neil's daughter, was born, when a friend comes over to sell cookies, she earns her trust by giving her a lot of money. Anna asks the little girl if she heard anything strange the night before. Before the cops got there, Elizabeth isn't very talkative, but she says that her dad and Lisa were always fighting, and that's why she didn't like her. Neil had told her to turn on the TV. Because of this, Anna has even more doubts about Neil. She looked up Neil on the internet the next morning. She is shocked to find Neil was the main person to blame for the death of his late wife, but because there wasn't enough proof, he was let out. Some people say that he threw his wife into the water and watched as she died. Anna, who tends to think too much, starts to imagine the whole thing. Neil brought her wife to the docks, where he started acting mean to her for no reason. Then, while their daughter watched, he threw her into the water and laughed as she died. Even though it was all in her head, Anna thinks she can trust her gut. Anna also finds out that Emma's teacher died in a strange way a few days after Neil's wife was killed. Emma and her friends were on a school trip when the teacher, for some reason, disappeared. In a strange way, Neil is the only dad in the group shot. Anna thinks about what could have happened back then once more. She thinks that Neil knew the teacher and was friends with her, but the teacher turned them all down, so he pushed her down to her death in a fit of anger. Anna is more and more sure that Neil is to blame for all these deaths. She digs deeper into the case. That night, she sees Neil pulling a big duffel bag toward her, so she jumps in quickly, her car, and starts secretly following him. They come to an alley that looks shady, where Neil pulls over, gets out of his car, and puts the duffel bag near a trash can. But before Anna could do anything, Neil saw her and they started fighting. Anna says that Neil is upset that people are always watching him and accusing him of being a killer. Anna wants to know the truth so badly that she opens the duffel bag. She finds a person, but not a real one. It was just a doll. Then it comes out that, to deal with the death of his wife, Neil started doing ventriloquism as a hobby. On the weekends, he goes to bars to sing and make people happy. Anna is ashamed again, and she says she's sorry a lot before leaving. Anna understands that she needs to stop having these dreams when she sees how obsessed she has been lately. So, she pours all of her drinks down the drain. She knows how hard Neil has had it. He deals with his losses by doing ventriloquism as a hobby, so she needs to do the same. She begins painting so she wouldn't think about her daughter's past. She starts a new life as the days go by, until one night, a wild dog somewhere far away finds Lisa's dead body in the woods. This proves that Anna wasn't really seeing things after all. The cops find the body the same night and arrest Anna, as her drawing brush was found to be a murder weapon. The cops have a feeling that Anna killed Neil's girlfriend because she was jealous of her, which makes sense. Anna is shocked, but she has no way to prove that she is not guilty. Lucky for her, her best friend showed up the next day. Sloane saves her and lets her go free on bail. Anna goes home, and that night she starts having dreams again. She sees blood dripping from her attic and knows right away that it came from her husband. She feels scared and calls her ex-husband, Douglas, who is a therapist. Anna fills him in on the blood and the fact that she could have been the one who killed Lisa. Even though they've been separated for years, Douglas calms down his ex-wife and tells her to keep going, to go up to the attic and face what she was afraid of. Anna is at first wary, but after a lot of pressure, she agrees. She slowly makes her way to the attic, where she is relieved to find that the red stuff hasn't spread. She also finds out that someone has been living in her attic for some time. When she questions him, a scared Bill tells her that he has been living there in secret for months. Anna has been hearing things around the house because of this. After a while, she calls Douglas again and tells him what's going on. Buell was his first case with a mental illness. He was in jail because he had killed his whole family. After many tests, he was said to be crazy, but Douglas helped him get better. A few months later, he was finally let out of jail. Douglas pushed him to work as well, so he started working as a handyman. When Anna hears all of this, she thinks that Buell's evil side has come back, and now he's killing people one by one. She can't believe it when she sees Buell carrying a hammer as he walks through the rain to Neil's house. She runs outside because she is afraid the killer will kill Neil. Anna gives in to her fear and falls to the ground, but just before she gives up, she suddenly finds herself in the jail cell just before her daughter Elizabeth does. Massacre Mike shot and killed him. She also remembers that no one helped her little girl. After remembering all of these things, Anna is determined not to let another little girl die, killed by a sick serial killer. So she slowly makes her way to Emma's house and gets into it, but what she sees there shakes her to her very core. Anna finds Buell lying near the door, badly hurt. Anna's package had been sent to her by mistake. Soon, he dies, and Anna feels awful for him, even thinking that Buell did it when he has tried so hard to change. She hears Neil and Emma talking in the living room at that moment. Having the idea that Neil is the serial killer, Anna moves quickly quickly to help the little girl. But to her surprise, Neil is dead on the couch when she comes home. This is when Anna finally figures out that Lisa was killed, but neither Neil nor Bill did it. Emma is found to be the criminal, who comes out from behind holding a bloody knife and grinning evilly. Emma talks about that adults always think too little of children and what they can do. Anna, who is shocked, asks Emma how and why she killed Lisa, and then, like most bad people, she admits to her crimes. In a memory, we then see that Emma asked Lisa to stay with her before she went to the airport. This made Emma very angry, so she went up to Lisa with a knife and said, "Chocolate is mine." Not the worst thing someone can put in their body before stabbing Lisa in the neck. Anna is confused because Neil was also at home when Lisa was killed, but he didn't do anything. Nothing at all. Emma says that Neil was in the bathroom on the second floor. He didn't want anyone to see him practice his ventriloquist act, so he left the water running. She also says that she killed her father because Neil forced her to watch one of his movies. Terrible acts by a ventriloquist. Anna calls her a monster because she is horrified by how cruel she is. But Emma quickly says that her mother was the monster, not her. The bad woman became pregnant. Emma didn't like that at all because she wanted all the attention for herself, and Emma used the whole summer to finish off her mother and her baby brother or sister. Taking down a dock's wooden platform when her trip was over, she got her mother to come over to the thin platform, as was planned. The poor woman fell into the water, but Emma was so cruel that she just let her die. Emma wants to kill Anna and make it look like she did all the killings, and say she killed Anna to protect herself. What Emma says is Anna is the right person to blame because it's easy to label her as crazy. It also turns out that when Emma went to Anna's house to sell her Girl Scout cookies, she took Anna's palette knife. Anna can't believe how much the little girl has planned, so she calls her crazy. Even so, this makes Emma even more angry, and she says that her teacher also used to call her names. Her crazy until she killed her by pushing her off the tower. After she says this, she throws a knife at Anna and even gets a knife in her stomach. Anna is able to fight back though. The house gets messed up. Anna tries to find Neil's gun. Emma is the first to find it, and she shoots her in the shoulder. Anna is angry and calls her a whore. He runs at her and hits her hard enough to knock the gun out of her hand, but the psychopathic girl again gets the upper hand and smashes a plate on Anna's head, which seems to kill her. In the meantime, Douglas goes to Anna's house out of worry for her safety, as he can't reach her since she found Buell living in her attic and he can't get there. Emma calls 911 and tells the operator she killed her mother. After her father was killed by her crazy neighbor, she killed him to protect herself. But at that time, Anna starts to move again, which shows that she is still living. So angry, Emma quickly ends the call and picks up the knife to kill Anna for good. She sits on top of her target, and as she's about to deal the finishing blow, Anna picks up a piece of broken plate and stabs Emma in the heart, killing her for good. Then he runs to Anna's side and asks her to stay with him, telling her that everything will be fine. A few weeks after the crime, Anna is found not guilty because Douglas lied. There was a lot of evidence against Emma, but there was also a lot of evidence in her favor. 1 year later, we see Anna again as she gets on a plane to New York, and our character orders a glass of vodka with a smile. Woman who tells Anna she's going to New York for something she doesn't say. Even so, Anna takes a short nap. When she wakes up, she finds the stranger dead in the bathroom on an airplane. She tells the staff about it right away, but to her shock, they say that there was no one sitting in seat 2A. In addition, there was no body or any sign of the crime in the bathroom. This girl is trapped in a house with an invisible man, but instantly enjoys it when Gabby, who accompanies a movie director named Dan to his abandoned riverside house in a rural city of England. Due to his busy schedule, Dan has to return back to London, leaving Gabby behind with the assurance that he will return in a few days. Before departing though, he hands her some movie scripts and asks her to read it through, suggesting she could be a unique case of a model turning into an actor. Despite her initial reluctance to stay alone, Dan somehow manages to persuade her. After he leaves, Gabby begins to unpack her belongings and arrange it in order. During this, she hears a door creak, startling her for a moment. She dismisses the sound and proceeds to read the scripts. A short while later, Gabby hears a knock on the door, so she goes to answer it. It's a delivery boy named Heishi, who recognizes her as a supermodel and expresses his admiration. Unfortunately, Gabby doesn't show much interest in the conversation and quickly shuts the door. Later, she looks at her aging face in the mirror, which makes her feel sad. It appears that she uses several skincare products to retain glow on her face. At night, Gabby has a dream in which she imagines someone someone entering her bedroom and spying on her. A couple of days later, Anne returns and inquires about Gaby's thoughts on the scripts. She admits her difficulty in understanding them and instead expresses her desire to do a modeling show with a renowned designer named Max Balagan. Dan, however, discourages her from returning to modeling as she has already retired from it. During their conversation, he also asks about Gaby's experience in the house. She goes on to say that she feels a strange vibe and also a sense of being watched, as if the house has a life of its own. Dan is amused when she talks about spirits and dismisses the topic. He heads off to London. Gaby walks back to the living room where she stumbles. Believing that Dan wrote it, she hurries outside to stop him and inquire why he left such a message. In response, Dan assumes she's joking and dismisses her concerns. He says that he didn't write the note. Following this, Gaby goes back into the house, but her fear intensifies upon discovering another note that reads, "I am not your enemy." In a panicked state, she rushes out of the house and attempts to contact Dan, but her calls go unanswered. Left with no alternative, she summons JC and asks him to inspect the house. JC conducts a thorough search of the entire premises, but finds nothing amiss. Shortly after, Dan also arrives, but he thinks she's playing some kind of game. This infuriates Gaby. Dan calls his girlfriend, Nina, and tells her that he will be staying home for a night. Later in the evening, he takes Gaby to dinner to help her divert her mind, but ends up getting drunk. When they return home, they play some chasing game around the house and end up getting intimate with each other. After making out, Gaby tells him that she is aware of the reason why he drives back to London every night. In response, Dan admits it, but he claims that Nina isn't a good lover like Gaby. As their conversation unfolds, Gaby shares about her first love, Jimmy, whom she met when she was 15. According to her, Jimmy had a skin condition and wasn't that appealing. Despite this, she made love with him one night, and they spent the entire night on the beach. The following morning, he dropped her home on his moped. On the way back, he met with a brutal accident that claimed his life. Regardless of his death, Gaby says she still feels his spirit watching over her. Around midnight, Gaby wakes up to find Dan has already left. Alone in her bed, she hears the door creak and witnesses a chair moving on its own. Moments later, a man with a female wig and painted nails suddenly appears in front of her, causing her to scream in terror. In the morning, Gaby awakens to find Dan putting on his clothes. This leads her to wonder whether the vision she experienced earlier was a dream. Dan asks her to get ready if she wants to return back to London, but Gaby decides to stay. After he leaves, Gaby makes her way down to the basement, where she discovers an ancient typewriter and a wardrobe. Sensing a presence of someone in the house, she attempts to communicate with it using handwritten notes, posing questions like, "Can you see me? Are you dead? And do I know you?" In the next scene, we see Gaby putting on her makeup and wearing a beautiful dress. While looking at herself in the mirror, she also talks to an unseen individual, addressing it as Jimmy and speaking without fear. In the midst of the chit-chat, Gaby expresses that she has fulfilled her aspirations. Now that her glory days have passed and none of the scripts seem suitable, she believes it's time to explore something new. Later that night, Gaby watches an interview with Max Balagan on TV and learns about his upcoming private event where he plans to select a few lucky people for his show. Excited, she shares this news with the invisible presence of Jimmy, expressing her intention to attend the event. At midnight, Gaby is in her sleep and she is woken up by the drunk JC and his companion, Mickey. JC suggests that they leave, claiming that it isn't the right thing to do. But his friend insists that Gaby is the key to helping him fulfill his dream of becoming a fashion designer. A few moments later, Gaby opens the door and invites the two friends inside. She seductively sits on the couch and asks JC to turn on some music. Mickey interprets this as a hint for intimacy and begins to kiss her and touch her body. However, she quickly pushes him away. Mickey then tells her about JC's dream and asks Gaby to assist him in connecting with the right people. However, Gaby cautions JC to reconsider this career path. Mickey asks JC to leave so that he can have a private time with Gaby. Innocently, JC departs and Mickey proceeds to force himself towards her. Gaby attempts to resist, but Mickey resorts to violence, slapping her forcefully and commanding her compliance. Feeling helpless, she breaks down in tears and calls out Jimmy's name. As soon as she says so, an invisible entity intervenes, pulling Mickey away from Gaby and throwing him to the floor. Confused, Mickey throws some random punches in the air, but the invisible force subdues him and pins him to a table as a form of retribution. After a brutal assault, Mickey is eventually allowed to escape. The next morning, Gaby returns to the house after a walk by the river. She starts getting ready for Max Balagan's event and asks the invisible Jimmy to accompany her as well. Amidst this, she lights a cigarette and soon after, the unseen presence blows the smoke back into her face. After witnessing this, Gaby attempts to reach out and touch the invisible Jimmy, but she fails. She then questions Jimmy about why he doesn't want want her to touch him, but receives no response. Changing the subject, Gabby decides to serve Jimmy a freshly brewed coffee. She leaves the coffee to brew and turns to retrieve 2 cups. As she turns back, the invisible entity unexpectedly splashes hot coffee onto her, causing a severe burn on half of her face. As a result, Gabby collapses to the floor in agony, clutching her face and crying out in pain. We see Gabby, who has bandaged her face, is peacefully asleep in her bedroom. A few moments later, her phone begins to ring, stirring her awake. Caller is Dan, but Gabby chooses to ignore the call. Alongside the phone's ring, she also hears the distinct sound of typing coming from the basement. Intrigued, she follows the sound, but as soon as she reaches the basement, typing noise abruptly stops. This time, she proceeds toward an old wardrobe and opens it. Inside, she finds a collection of dusty coats and the same blonde wig that the mysterious man wore in her earlier dream. In addition, she comes across a yellow box filled with numerous pictures of the man from her dream. These discoveries send shivers down her spine, causing her to drop everything to the floor. Just then, she notices a man in the mirror and screams. Gabby anxiously attempts to escape. The invisible figure seizes her and pins her onto a table. He then proceeds to force himself against her will. Dan becomes concerned when Gabby doesn't answer any of his calls, so he decides to check on her. Upon arriving, he is shocked to see her in her brutally battered state and inquires about how it happened. Gabby, in a crying voice, points towards the pictures and informs him that the man had been in the house the entire time. Dan heads to the basement to investigate but finds no trace of the man. Returning to Gabby, he reveals that the man in the pictures is Michael Gidges, a once famous actor from 15 years ago who often portrayed feminine roles. Dan explains that Michael's career took a nosedive at one point, which forced him to sell all of his properties in order to settle his debts. Since then, the man disappeared without a trace. After a brief conversation, Dan checks on Gabby's burned face and urges her to seek medical attention. At that very moment, the invisible Michael unexpectedly strikes Dan on the head from behind, knocking him out. Michael then covers Gabby's face with his hand, rendering her unconscious. After some time, Gabby gradually regains consciousness and sees Michael visibly seated on a chair nearby. He firstly apologizes to her for breaking her trust by impersonating Jimmy. He then explains that he has been invisible for so many years that he's now uncertain whether he's truly alive or merely an abstract concept. He goes on to share that his life story resembles that of Gabby's because he was also once a famous figure like her, but experienced a turning point from where he faded into obscurity. Furthermore, he reveals a golden ring on his finger, which possesses the power to render anyone invisible. He admits to having misused this ring for evil purposes, causing harm and chaos in people's lives. However, he eventually felt guilty for his deeds and sought refuge in this house, where he began writing scripts as a means to overcome his guilt. Nevertheless, his evil tendencies resurfaced when he saw Gabby. Now, Michael believes he can attain true peace only by relinquishing his power. As a result, he offers the ring to Gabby, urging her to use it as a blessing, unlike what he did. Despite hearing Michael's story, Gabby remains convinced that he is a figment of her dream and will vanish when she awakens. In order to persuade her otherwise, Michael asks her to read his scripts. It turns out that he has written everything about Gabby ever since she came to this house. As Gabby goes through it, she learns that there is no ending. Michael explains that the conclusion of the story, including his own fate, is in her hands now. With all this in mind, Gabby takes Dan's car and drives away. Several days later, Dan is seen giving a house tour to Michael, who intends to buy his property back. During their interaction, Dan notices a picture of Gabby and wonders where she has gone. Meanwhile, Gabby is with her lover, Jimmy, on the beach, possibly due to a form of time travel. This time, she asks Jimmy to stay at her place to avert the tragic accident. The movie ends as the couple rides away, with Gabby wearing the super powerful golden ring. This girl gets hunted by a predator, but instantly enjoys it when. The story follows a young Comanche girl named Naru, a hunter with a loyal dog named Sari. While practicing with her axe, Naru notices a threat. While pursuing the deer, Naru and her dog struggle to capture it. However, Sari becomes trapped in a bear trap, causing him severe pain. Naru quickly rescues him and applies natural remedies to his tail, including rubbing berries on it. After preparing to return home, Naru investigates a loud noise from the sky and sees a large alien ship flying through the clouds. She then meets her brother, Tabe, the fiercest fighter in the tribe and the best hunter. Naru informs Tabe of her Thunderbird sighting and offers to join him in the upcoming hunt, but Tabe warns her that it is dangerous. Naru returns to her mother and helps her prepare medicine while sharpening her axe. When her mother asks why she wants to hunt, Naru explains that she is as skilled as others and uses her intelligence rather than her physicality. Tabe brings Naru a hunted bird for food, but he is not pleased. a dangerous predator emerges from the ship, displaying advanced weapons such as lasers, thermal vision, and the ability to become invisible. The predator calmly kills a large snake while gathering herbs for medicine in the wilderness. Naru joins the men in the jungle to kill a lion that has captured one of their men, Pui. The men initially refuse to let her join, but when Tabe offers to treat the wounded, they agree. Naru guides them through the jungle using her intelligent brain, and they find Pui in a brutal condition. After a successful rescue mission, Naru saves Pui by providing medications and herbs. However, Tabi insists on hunting the feral lion, instructing the other men to carry him back to camp while he pursues it. Naru is skeptical and asks Tabi to join him, but Tabe declines. Naru suggests placing bait and taking a position on a tree to effectively attack the lion. After a while, she and Paka climb a tree while Tabe places the bait and hides behind some bushes. The plan works, and the lion arrives on the scene, but instead of going after the bait, it lunges towards the duo. At first, the lion kills Paka and slowly starts moving towards Naru. The latter is holding a spear, confident that she can defend herself, but right then she notices the predator. This distracts her momentarily, allowing the lion enough time to strike her and knock her to the ground. Naru wakes up and finds herself back at the village camp. It turns out that her brother saved her from the lion and brought her home. Tabe also arrives with the lion's head. All the villagers are proud of him, so the elders elevate him to the position of war chief. However, Naru remains convinced that there is something else in the forest and wishes to go back. She tells Tabe about it, but the latter dismisses her, stating that she is not prepared to hunt yet. Since no one believes her, Naru decides to take matters into her own hands early the next morning. She, along with her dog, heads to the forest to investigate there. She makes a rope out of wood skins, ties it to her axe, and uses it as a boomerang. With the help of it, she is able to hunt down a rabbit, which she cooks in the forest and eats with Sari. Meanwhile, the predator is watching a wolf which is about to pounce on a small animal. As soon as the wolf catches its prey, the predator attacks and kills it. Invisible 3D slice. On the other hand, Naru continues to move in search of clues about the predator. She arrives at a location where she discovers several dead buffalo with their skins ripped off. Naru is shocked and perplexed as to who could have done this, as buffaloes are regarded as symbols of honor and generosity in their culture. After her investigation is done, she continues her journey until she falls into a swamp. Naru slowly drowns inside, and it appears as if she will suffocate to death. Fortunately, she still has her axe. Boomerang. Using this, she somehow manages to rescue herself. Naru then heads to the nearby river to clean herself up. Meanwhile, Naru discovers a large bear devouring its prey. Normally, even the bravest of villagers would run away from the beast, but Naru has a point to prove. She wants to kill it. Unfortunately, at the last second, her bow breaks, and the bear notices her. Now, with the tables turned, Naru runs for her life and eventually hides beneath a beaver dam. However, the bear, using his incredible sense of smell, tracks her down. It is about to devour her when suddenly the predator arrives at the scene and attacks it. The two beasts then get into a fight, but the bear is eliminated within seconds. Witnessing this, Naru is taken aback, and she immediately swims away to save herself. The predator notices her, but doesn't react. Naru arrives at the shore, where she is approached by Simit from her village. It turns out that after she went missing, Tabe directed his men to look for her. Naru frantically explains to them about what she saw. Predator appears to be watching them from nearby using his advanced technology. He has marked their weapons. Shortly after, the tribe's men hear the predator's roar and notice some movement in the bushes. Scared, they take up their positions, and one of them fires an arrow into the bush, and he slowly moves forward to investigate, only to discover that it is just a rabbit. This cracks up all the men, and they make fun of Naru's fear. 3 lasers point at the man's body, followed by metal arrows, killing him instantly. Because of this, the other men start shooting their arrows in random directions, and one of them hits the predator and exposes his real self. Men immediately begin attacking him, but the deadly alien is so powerful that he effortlessly kills the man one after another. During the fight, Naru escapes the area, but the predator kills all the men and pursues her. Naru tries to lose him in the woods, but gets caught in a bear trap. Predator approaches her, but stops when he sees her struggling and in pain, revealing that he does not intend to kill her. After the siblings are taken into the forest and tied up as bait for the invisible alien, Naru assures Tabe that the predator does not attack defenseless beings. The predator slowly approaches the men from behind and kills them one by one, making the kills even more sweet. While the massacre continues, Tabe finds a horse, while Naru reaches the French hunter's camp to rescue her dog. The translator approaches her with a severed leg, requesting medication and offering to teach her gun skills. Naru provides him medication to decrease his body temperature temperature while studying rifle handling and hearing the predator's terrifying sounds. So Naru immediately hides behind a tree while the translator pretends to be dead. Surprisingly, the predator isn't able to locate the translator because of his low body temperature. This makes Naru realize that he has a weakness after all, but the predator makes up for this rare weakness. With his intelligence, he steps on all the corpses one by one. Most of them do not respond, but when it's the translator's turn, he screams in pain, realizing that the human was only pretending to be dead. The predator kills him in a flash. After this, he spots Sari and aims his laser at it. However, as he is about to shoot, Tave arrives out of nowhere and attacks the predator's head, causing his helmet to fall off. As a result, the laser present in the helmet points and shoots the tree rather than Sari. Seeing this, Naru realizes that the metal arrow is following the laser points rather than the enemy's location. By the time the predator retrieves his helmet, Tave attacks him. The tribesman goes toe-to-toe with him and even manages to land some impressive shots. After becoming invisible, the predator catches Tave off guard and stabs him from behind, murdering him cruelly. Naru watches this unfold right before her eyes, but she doesn't have time to mourn. She flees with her dog immediately. The next morning, she spots one of the surviving French hunters across the river and apprehends him. She severs his leg, preventing him from fleeing, and using him as bait, she then takes the medication, which lowers her body temperature and makes it impossible for the predator to sense her. A while later, the predator arrives as planned and tries to go after the person who set up the bait. As expected, he is unable to locate Naru. Suddenly, she shoots him in the head from behind, takes his helmet, and runs away. She positions the helmet in such a way that the laser can be directed at the predator. Soon he arrives, and Naru jumps onto him and begins tussling. She manages to cut off his hand using his own weapon. Next, she, along with the help of Sari, ties the predator with a rope and drags him to the swamp. As per the plan, he points the metal arrows at Naru, oblivious to the fact that the laser is aimed at himself, and he shoots the metal arrows, end up penetrating his own head, finally killing him. In the last scene, Naru returns to her village with the predator's head, making everyone proud of her, something she has always dreamed of. Click subscribe for more videos like this, and click another video to enjoy another best movie explained in less time. Don't miss out on its shocking and surprising ending.